The silence of the Cygnus 7 debris field was absolute. It was a graveyard of forgotten asteroids and shattered comet cores, painted in the cold light of a distant sun. In the middle of it all, the thing called the husk floated. It was massive, bigger than any human-made station. Its shape was strange, like a bone from some impossibly large creature, curved and smooth in places, with twisted, broken spines jutting out from its middle. A gaping hole where something important had clearly been ripped away marred its side. It was dead at least. That's what the Galactic Concorde thought. They had found it a cycle ago. Their scouts, with their advanced sensors, had scanned every inch. Their report was final. Total energetic collapse. Core void. Structural integrity compromised. Biocrystalline contamination hazard. They had stuck a small, floating beacon on it that pulsed a universal warning. Do not approach. Derelict. And they had left it to rot. It was a tomb, and not even a useful one. Just a broken thing. The human salvage shuttle, the Digger, was a boxy, ugly ship. Its hull was covered in welded patches and scorch marks. It moved with a sputtering jerk, not the smooth glide of Concorde vessels. Inside, the air smelled like recycled air, machine oil, and cheap coffee. Lee Jun floated near the front viewport, his magnetic boots keeping him anchored to the floor. He was a practical man, his hands scarred from a lifetime of fixing things no one else wanted. He stared at the alien ship, his eyes not seeing a dead thing, but a shape, a structure. Still getting that beacon loud and clear, said Kim Tae-yun from the pilot's seat. He was former military, his movements sharp and efficient. Concorde really doesn't want anyone touching their garbage. It's not their garbage, said Choi Yuna softly. She was pressed against a sensor panel, her dark hair tied back. Her screen showed flowing lines of data, not the flat lines the Concorde must have seen. My scans are different. They're technology. It reads power in a way we don't. It's not generating energy, but it's holding it, like a battery in deep, deep sleep. The core isn't void. It's dormant. Park Soo-min, floating near the rear with a tablet in hand, let out a low whistle. So the Concorde missed it? That's hard to believe. Not missed, Yuna corrected, tapping her screen. They diagnosed it by their own rules. If your heart doesn't beat in a way their stethoscope can hear, they declare you dead. But this is a different kind of heart. June finally spoke, his voice calm. Can we dock? Without waking it up? Tae-yun snorted. Waking what up? It's a ship, not a bear. But he looked at Yuna for confirmation. There's minimal energy fluctuation. The breach on the port side is stable. We can use magnetic clamps on the outer hull. It should be safe. Yuna's voice was sure, but her knuckles were white as she held the console. Take us in, Tae-yun, June said. The approach was slow. The Digger rattled as it maneuvered close to the massive derelict. The alien metal was dark, but it had a faint, inner glow, like the last embers of a fire. Up close, the damage was more terrifying. The broken spines weren't metal beams. They looked organic, like giant ribs snapped in half. The hole was edges were smooth, as if something had melted its way out. With a heavy thunk-clunk, the shuttle attached itself to the husk's side. The airlock hissed as it matched pressure with the silent ship beyond. They stepped into darkness. The beams from their helmet lights cut through the black, revealing a world that was utterly wrong. The walls weren't flat. They were curved, flowing into the floor and ceiling. Strange, vein-like lines of crystal ran along them, dark now. The gravity was off, a faint, uneven pull that made them stumble. Air's stale, but breathable, Tae-yun reported, checking his wrist monitor. No life signs, just dust. They moved in a tight group, their lights dancing over the impossible interior. They found rooms with no clear purpose, with arches and bowls grown directly out of the structure. They found chairs that seemed molded for bodies with different spines. Everything was empty. It felt less like a ship and more like the skeleton of a giant alien whale. Then they found the bridge, or what they guessed was the bridge. It was a large circular room at the front of the ship. In the center was a raised platform, surrounded by what might have been control nodes, smooth, crystalline lumps. And in the very center of the platform was a pedestal, holding a single, massive, cracked crystal. It was as big as a person, and it was dark. "This was the brain," Una whispered, stepping toward it. She didn't touch it, just ran her scanner over it. The central biocrystalline processor. It's shattered. This is why they left. For them, with this broken, the ship is dead. You can't fix a broken crystal like this. Not to its original function. June walked around the dark crystal. He saw the fracture lines, a spiderweb of failure. But he also saw the pedestal it sat in, the thick, root-like conduits that fed into the floor. The support structure was intact. The skeleton was strong. He turned to his team, his light illuminating their faces in the gloom. "They deserted it because it's broken on their terms," he said, a slow idea forming, solid and hard in his mind. "Their brain is dead. Their way of thinking is gone." He pointed at the veins in the walls, at the sturdy bones of the ship. "But the body is here. The nerves, the bones, the heart that Una says is sleeping." He looked at Suman, the system's thinker. "Can we talk to the nerves without the brain?" Suman frowned, thinking. "If we can find where the neural pathways convert signal to action, maybe, not with their language, but with electricity. Raw commands, like jerking a knee." He looked at Taeyeon. "Can we give it a new muscle? A new, simple human heart?" Taeyeon grinned, a flash of white in his helmet light. "We can strap engines on a rock if we have enough cable and willpower. This has a better shape than a rock." Finally, he looked at Una. "Can you keep us from waking up the parts we don't understand? Or from poisoning ourselves with their leftover biology?" Una looked from the dead crystal to June's determined face. She saw the madness of it. But she also saw the skeleton of the most powerful ship any human had ever stood inside. "I can nap it," she said quietly. "I can show you what to avoid, what is dead and what is only sleeping." June placed his gloved hand on the cold organic wall. He didn't feel the death the Concord felt. He felt potential. A vast, empty shell waiting. They saw an end. He said to the darkness around them, "We see a beginning. We don't need to fix their broken crystal. We just need to make our own system that fits inside their shell. We'll make a new heart. A new brain. Simple, ours." The 4 humans stood in the tomb ship, their small lights no match for the overwhelming dark. But in that moment, the husk was no longer a derelict. It was a project. The first spark had been lit. It was a dangerous, impossible spark. But it was theirs. The hidden moon, designated pound -7 by no one but themselves, was a gray, airless rock. Its only feature was a deep, jagged canyon that hid them from casual scans. At the bottom of that canyon, bathed in the harsh light of portable work lamps, the derelict ship was no longer just the husk. It was becoming something else. It was a surgery, a construction site, and a madness, all in one. Lee June's call had gone out on the fringe networks, using coded channels. He didn't ask for soldiers or pilots. He asked for welders who weren't afraid of alien alloys. He asked for programmers who could make 5 different broken systems talk to each other. He asked for reactor technicians with a history of creative modifications. They came. Dozens of them, arriving on beat-up transports, their eyes widening at the scale of the thing in the canyon dot. The first task was brute force, making it livable. The alien environment systems were a mystery, a network of glowing moss and circulating gel that had long since dried up. So they bypassed it. Human-made atmosphere processors, loud and boxy, were wheeled in and bolted to the elegant walls. Thick, snaking cables draped everywhere, carrying power and air from humming generators outside. The ship's original lighting was dead, so they strung up simple, bright work lights. The graceful dark halls now looked like a messy warehouse. Park Suman's domain was the bridge. The dead central crystal was carefully, respectfully, moved to a side room. "We're not replacing their brain," she told her small team of coders. "We're giving it a new spinal cord. We just tell the body what to do." They found that the crystal conduits in the walls could carry a charge. They were incredibly efficient, like superconductors. By tapping into these nerves, they could send simple signals, but the alien system expected elegant, complex instructions. Suman's solution was not elegance. It was a sledgehammer. She and her team built a translation layer, a chunky bank of human computers that took a simple command like "open door" and blasted it down the conduit as a massive raw pulse of electricity. It was like kicking a machine to make it work. And slowly, door by door, system by system, it began to work. Lights powered by human reactors flickered on in alien sconces. The ship began to wake up, not with its own mind, but with a crude, human-made nervous system. Kim Tae-un and Kang Dae, a broad-shouldered woman with burn scars on her arms, tackled propulsion and weapons. The ship's original drive was beautiful, a gravity-manipulating core that was now a cold, cracked sphere. It was art, and it was useless. Tae-un didn't even try to understand it. "We need thrust," he said. Big, simple, ugly thrust. They sourced 6 massive plasma drive cores from decommissioned freighters. They were bulky, inefficient, and spat out enough radiation to make a health inspector faint. Using cutting beams and industrial welders, they began attaching these human engines to the sleek alien stern. It was blasphemy. They built a cage of girders around the elegant curves and bolted the engines on. Power came from a bank of 4 fusion reactors, also human-made, installed in a once-empty cargo bay. The room now roared with heat and power, cooled by hastily installed radiator pipes that snaked out through new holes in the hull. Weapons were Kang Dae's passion. The ship had housed precise, focused particle beams. One was intact, but wouldn't fire without the central crystal. The others were shattered. Dae looked at the intact emitter, a long, delicate barrel. "Too precise," she grumbled. "One shot, one target. We need to speak louder." She linked it to the overpowered human reactors. Then she built 5 more emitters from modified mining lasers, arranging them in a rough circle around the alien one. She didn't try to focus their beams into one. She linked them to fire in a sequenced, rotating burst. It wouldn't pierce heavy armor in one spot. It would scour and melt a huge area. "It's a thresher," she said with satisfaction. "Not a scalpel." Choi Yuna moved through the chaos like a ghost. Her job was to watch the ship itself. As the humans hammered and wired and shouted, she monitored the dormant alien systems. She watched for any sign of reaction, any immune response from the living metal to the invasive surgery. She found areas where the crystal veins pulsed with a faint, distressed light when the human reactors powered up. She marked them in red on everyone's maps. "Do not cross. Do not wire. Alien system active." She often argued with June. "We are forcing it," she said one day, standing in the hallway as teams ran cables over a beautifully spiraled wall. "It is not a tool. It was a living thing to them. We are making it a puppet." June wiped grease from his face. "A puppet that can walk, Yuna. A puppet that can protect. Our people on the fringe have no protection. The Concord ignores us unless we break their rules. This he said, gesturing at the chaotic activity around them, is our rule. Our own rule. Months passed. The hybrid creature took shape. From the outside, it was a terrifying patchwork. The original sleek, bone-white hull was now streaked with carbon scoring and welded armor plates. The new engine nacelles glowed a harsh blue, unlike the soft green the ship had once used. The weapon ports were clearly add-ons, crude circles around the single, elegant alien emitter. It was a monster, built from the corpse of something noble. The day came for the first systems test. June, Suman, Taeyun, Day, and Yuna stood on the modified bridge. The alien consoles were covered with human control panels and screens. Wires hung from the ceiling. The air vibrated with the deep hum of the human reactors. Starting reactor sequence, Taeyun said, flipping physical switches. A deep thrumming shook the deck. Neural link is active, Suman reported, her fingers flying over a keyboard. Primary life support is human system. Secondary is holding. No feedback from alien biosystems. Internal gravity is stable, Yuna said, watching her scanners. The ship's native system is accommodating our field. It's adjusting, like a body accepting a prosthetic. June took the central seat, a human pilot's chair, bolted to the alien floor. Give me external lights. Suman sent the pulse. Across the ship's hull, the simple human work lamps shut off. For a moment, there was darkness. Then the ship's own veins began to glow. A soft, eerie light, the color of moonlight on deep water, flowed through the crystal pathways in the walls, across the ceiling, down the halls. It was beautiful and alien. It was their light now, powered by a human heart. Engine test, June said, his voice tight. Taeyun engaged the thrusters. The ship didn't move, locked in its cradle, but a roar filled the canyon outside. On the screens, they saw jets of blue plasma scream from the new engines, melting the canyon wall opposite. The whole structure groaned, a deep sound of metal and something else like a sigh from the bones of the ship. It worked. It was ugly. It was violent. It was theirs. Yuna looked at the glowing walls, then at the screen showing the scorched rock. We have not fixed it, she whispered, but only to herself. We have transformed it. June leaned back in his chair, feeling the immense trembling power through the deck. The skeleton had muscle now. The next step was to teach it to fight. The Gumio hung in the silent dark between stars. Its new engines were cold. Its hybrid systems hummed with a low, waiting power. Inside, the mood was tense. This was not a test. This was real. Li Jun stood on the bridge, which now felt less like a construction site and more like a command center, even with the wires still dangling. The others were at their stations. Park Suman at the main systems console, Kim Taeyun at the helm, Kang Dae at the weapons panel, and Choi Yuna monitoring the alien bio readouts. The view screen showed a simple starfield and a tiny, bright dot moving across it. The CCS provider, a Galactic Concord cargo hauler. It's a clean ship, Taeyun muttered, his hands resting lightly on the controls. Fast, but lightly armed. Standard escort drones. They won't be expecting trouble out here. We're not giving them trouble, June said, his voice firm. We're giving them a choice. A trade. The plan was simple. The Gumiho would drop out of warp right in front of the hauler, a show of impossible force. They would broadcast a message, speaking in the trade pidgin used on the fringes. They would explain that fringe settlements were dying from a fever that human medicine couldn't crack. The provider was carrying advanced medical synthesizers that could. They would ask or demand for half of the units. In return, they would let the ship go unharmed. It was a bluff, but the ship they had built was the bluff. Intercept in 30 seconds. Suman said. Translation matrix is ready for broadcast. I'm patching it through the external comms. It'll sound rough to them. Ready, June said. He took a deep breath. Do it. Space tore open in front of the sleek Concorde hauler. The Dumaho emerged not with a shimmer, but with a violent snap of displaced energy, its 6 mismatched engines flaring to life with a blue glare. To the crew of the provider, it was a nightmare vision. Their sensors screamed in confusion. The silhouette matched a dead Concorde species, the Korvax, but the energy signatures were all wrong, chaotic, hot, and crude. And the hull was defiled with ugly armor plates and weapon pods. On the Gumiho's bridge, June nodded to Suman. Open a channel. The message went out. It was a human voice, filtered through Suman's translation software, speaking simple words. Concorde vessel provider. We have a humanitarian request. You carry medical synthesizers. Human fringe colonies are sick. We require a share. Provide half your units, and you may proceed. Refuse, and we will take them. This is not an attack. This is a necessity. There was a long silence. Then the reply came, not in pidgin, but in perfect, smooth galactic standard. The voice was calm, haughty. Unidentified vessel. You are in violation of Concorde salvage law and are threatening an accredited supply ship. Power down your engines and weapons immediately. Submit to boarding and inspection. Your request is denied. Tayin looked at June. They're not even acknowledging it. They're giving us a parking ticket. Repeat the message, June said, his jaw tight. Emphasize the sickness. The children. Suman said it again. The reply was faster this time. Final warning. Stand down or be fired upon. A moment later, a bright lance of energy shot from the provider's single defensive turret. It was a warning shot, meant to skim their shield and demonstrate precision. But the Gumiho's shields were a hybrid Messpark alien harmonic diffusion, part human polarized plating. The shot didn't skim. It splashed against the uneven shield, causing a flare of orange light and a shudder through the deck. Shield harmonic dropped by 15% on that sector, Suman reported, her voice tense. Their weapons are more precise than we predicted. They just fired, Kong Day said from weapons, her fingers hovering over her controls. That's our answer. June felt a coldness settle in his stomach. The bluff had failed. The choice was now simple. Run or fight. Running meant leaving people to die. Fighting meant becoming what the Concorde already thought they were: pirates. Monsters. Taeyeon, June said, the word heavy. Evasive pattern. Get us closer. Day. Target their primary engine array. Disable. Do not destroy. Fire the Thresher. On the provider's bridge, the commander watched the strange ship begin to move. It didn't move like a Korvax ship. It turned with a jarring, aggressive speed, its engines burning hard. Before the commander could order a second shot, the alien ship's weapon pods glowed. What fired was not a single beam. It was a storm. 5 jagged, rotating bolts of raw mining laser energy, mixed with a single, more focused, but now wildly amplified Korvax beam, lashed out. It wasn't aimed like a weapon. It was hosed across the provider's stern. Concorde shields were designed for focused, high-energy impacts. They struggled violently against the scattering, noisy barrage. The shield over the engines flared white, then blue, then shattered like glass. The devastating energy wash hit the hull. Metal didn't just melt. It boiled away. The elegant engine nozzles were scoured into mangled ruins. Secondary explosions rippled through the engineering section as conduits burst. The provider lurched, its lights flickering, and began to drift. Trailing debris and venting atmosphere. Silence filled the Gumiho's bridge. The view screen showed the catastrophic damage. It was far worse than June had intended. Life signs? June asked, his voice hollow. Numerous, Una said quickly, scanning. The blast was wide, not deep. It shredded the outer hull and systems, but the main crew compartments are intact. They have life support. They're just dead in the water. It was a small mercy. It didn't feel like one. Get the boarding team ready, June ordered, forcing himself to focus. Tae-yun, dock with them. We take only the medical synthesizers. Nothing else. And see if they have any wounded from the blast. Offer our basic aid kits. The operation was swift and tense. The Concorde crew, shocked and terrified, huddled in their mess hall. They were mostly Yulindi, tall and slender with large, dark eyes. They looked at the humans in their mismatched, armored suits not with anger, but with pure, bewildered fear. They were looking at ghosts riding a monster. The humans took 12 of the 24 synthesizer units, leaving the rest. A human medic left a box of basic bandages and coagulant spray. No words were exchanged. Back on the Gumo, as they pulled away from the drifting, wounded hauler, the victory felt like ash. We got what we needed, Tae-yun said. But his usual confidence was gone. We declared war for a dozen machines, Una said softly, staring at the crippled ship on the screen. We are monsters to them now. June looked at the data screen. Suman had intercepted the provider's frantic distress call. It was repeating on all Concorde channels. Asterisk, attacked by unknown hybrid vessel. Korvax silhouette with barbaric modifications. Weapons are extremely high yield and primitive. Engines disabled. They took medical supplies. Asterisk. The word barbaric hung in the air. They were right, June finally said, not to his crew, but to himself. We're not fixing the galaxy. We're breaking it in a new way. He turned from the screen. The medical synthesizers in the cargo hold would save hundreds, maybe thousands of lives in the fringe colonies. That was a fact, but another fact now existed. The derelict was gone. In its place was a confirmed galactic threat. They had a name now, not just a ship. They were the ghosts in the broken machine, and the galaxy would be coming for them. The message repeated across every screen in the Galactic Concorde Strategic Command Center. Admiral Song Ji-woo watched it for the 10th time, her expression unreadable. The footage was from the crippled provider, the violent warp exit, the ugly hybrid ship, the terrifying storm of fire that had scoured the hauler's engines. The word used by the shocked commander was barbaric. Song focused on a different word from the report, hybrid. Her council was in an uproar. A senior commander, a Tarkellan with scales flushed red in anger, slammed a fist on the table. It is a Korvax derelict. The husk from Cygnus 7. Those filthy scavengers have not just boarded it, they have defiled it, turned a relic into a weapon. This is an abomination and an act of war. Others agreed. Voices called for immediate punitive action against the human fringe colonies. Burn their outposts. Show them the cost of stealing our technology. Admiral Song waited for the noise to settle. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, but cut through the room. You are all describing what we have lost. A dead ship. A broken toy. I am interested in what the humans have built. She gestured at the frozen image of the Gumio's weapon discharge. Analyze this, not as a Korvax weapon failure, but as a human weapon success. What do you see? A tactical officer cleared his throat. It is inefficient, Admiral. A massive energy expenditure for area denial. Our shields are designed to dissipate focused energy. This is noise. It overloads the harmonic dampeners through sheer, chaotic input. It is not aiming. It is hosing. Exactly, Song said. They did not fix the precision Korvax beam. They gave up on precision. They built a club where there was a scalpel. And with that club, they disabled a Concorde hauler in one strike. She brought up schematics of the provider's damage. Look at the pattern. It is not deep. It is wide. They wanted to stop the ship, not kill the crew. This was a surgical strike performed with a blunt instrument. That is a contradiction. And it is a conscious choice. She changed the display to show the known human fringe colonies. If we attack their homes, what will they do? They will run. Or they will fight with this thing. And they will fight without rules. They have already shown they use warp jumps for tactical, short-range teleports, a maneuver that would rip our drives apart because we calculate for safety and efficiency. They do not. She looked at each of the council members. We are not fighting the Korvax. We are fighting the humans inside the Korvax shell. We must study the monster they have made. Her orders were approved, reluctantly. A task force was assembled, the Cruiser Light of Resolution, and 2 escort frigates, the Vigilant and the Shield of Law. Their mission was to find and destroy the hybrid vessel, now designated Ghost Ship Alpha. Admiral Song would oversee from her command ship nearby. She gave the task force commander specific instructions. Capture it if you can. Disable its engines. But be prepared for it to act in ways a proper ship should not. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk on the Gumo. The mood was grim. The medical synthesizers had been delivered to a grateful, desperate colony. They had saved lives. But every scan of the deep space channels was filled with talk of the ghost ship. Concorde patrols had doubled. They were being hunted. Choi Yuna found Li Jun in the engine bay, staring at the roaring human-made reactors. They are coming, she said simply. I know, he replied, not turning around. We could run, she said. We could go further out, beyond even the fringe. The ship can survive. June finally looked at her. And then what? We hide until the reactors fail? Until we starve? We built this to be a voice for people who have none. If we run and hide at the first sign of danger, we were never a voice. We were just making noise. He saw the fear in her eyes, the fear of what they had unleashed. We have to stand, Yuna, just once. We have to show them we are not just a rabid animal. We are a predator. And predators are respected. The alert came from Park Sumin. 3 contacts, warping in at the edge of the system. 1 cruiser, 2 frigates. Concorde signatures. They're spreading out. They've seen us. Battle stations were called. The Gumiho was in the Beta Pictoris system, near a dense asteroid field. It was not a good place to fight. It was the only place they had Kim Taeyeon grip the helm. They're trying to flank us. Standard Concorde pincer maneuver. Take us into the asteroid field, June ordered. Use it. Make our size a problem for them. The Gumiho dove into the tumbling rocks. The Concorde ships followed, but more cautiously, their smooth formations breaking up as they navigated the debris. The Light of Resolution fired first. Its main beam, a brilliant lance of white energy, lanced past the Gumiho's stern, melting a small asteroid into slag. Shields at 80% from the particle wash, Sumin called out. Kang Dae was hunched over her panel. I can't get a clean shot. They're using the asteroids for cover too. Then don't be clean, June said. Taeyeon, on my mark, hard to port. Dae, fire the Thresher in a wide arc ahead of their lead frigate. Don't aim at the ship. Aim at the asteroids in front of it. The Gumiho swung violently. The Thresher beam erupted, not at the Vigilant, but at a cluster of 3 large asteroids directly in its path. The rocks didn't just break apart. They exploded into an expanding cloud of superheated fragments and dust. The Vigilant flew straight into the cloud. Its shields flared as it was pelted with thousands of high-velocity projectiles. Alarms blared on the frigate as its sensors were blinded and its forward shields overloaded. Now, Taeyan. Short jump. Coordinates locked behind the cruiser. Sumin protested. The drive needs 5 more minutes to cycle. Override. Safety limits off. June barked, with a sickening lurch that stressed the hybrid hull to its limits. Space twisted, and the Gumiho disappeared from the asteroid field. It reappeared, engines screaming, less than a kilometer behind the light of resolution. The Concorde cruiser's rear shields were weaker. All weapons fire, now! June yelled, the full, chaotic fury of the Thresher beam, amplified by the unstable power surge from the emergency jump, hammered into the cruiser's stern. The elegant ship shuddered. Its engine glow flickered and died. It was not destroyed, but it was crippled, drifting forward powerless. But the maneuver had cost them. The second frigate, the Shield of Law, had a clear shot. Its coordinated barrage hit the Gumiho amidships. Human-made armor plating vaporized. Alien hull material cracked with a sound like a giant tree snapping. The ship lurched, and red lights flooded the bridge. Atmosphere whistled from a breach somewhere below. "We're hurt," Sumin shouted. "Primary power conduit to Engine 2 is cut. We're down to 50% thrust." Admiral Song watched the data stream in from the crippled cruiser. She saw the tactical jump. She saw the use of the environment as a weapon. She saw the sacrifice of defense for a single devastating attack. This was not the doctrine of any known species. It was something new, brutal, and shockingly effective. On the Gumiho, June coughed in the thinning air. "Get us out of here, Taeyan. Anywhere. Now." With its remaining engines firing unevenly, trailing debris and coolant, the Gumiho limped away from the battlefield, weaving into the dense asteroid field until it vanished from Concorde sensors. It had not won. One cruiser was crippled, one frigate damaged, but they had survived an engagement with a Concorde task force. They had heard it dot in her command center. Admiral Song reviewed the engagement. Her officers demanded a full-scale fleet action to hunt the wounded monster down. Song shook her head. "No, we have learned what we needed. They fight like the ship looks, a hybrid, unpredictable, illogical, dangerous." She stood up. "We will not destroy it yet. We will open a dialogue." Her council was horrified. "Dialogue? With that thing?" "With the humans inside it," Song corrected. "We have been fighting the wrong enemy. The threat is not the alien metal. It is the human mind that saw a broken tool and built a weapon from the pieces. You cannot negotiate with a ghost, but you can negotiate with an engineer." She began drafting orders for a diplomatic envoy. The war, she realized, had just changed shape. The Gumiho drifted in the silent shadow of a gas giant's ring, a wounded animal licking its burns. The bridge was dark, lit only by the soft alien glow from the walls and the harsh red of damage reports on the human screens. The air still smelled of ozone and scorched metal. Kim Taeyan worked with a maintenance team, his hands bloody from sealing a cracked coolant line. Kang Dae sat silently by her weapons panel, one arm in a sling, staring at the readout, showing 2 of her 6 emitters as black. Dead Icons Lee Jun stood at the main viewport, looking at the immense, swirling bands of the planet. His body ached from the battle. His mind ached from the cost. They had faced the Concorde and lived, but they were bleeding air and power. The list of repairs was longer than the list of working systems. Choi Yuna approached, her steps quiet on the deck. "The biocrystalline pathways around the main breach are healing," she said, her voice tired. "Slowly. They are sealing themselves, like a wound clotting. Our patch is holding, but their process is helping. It was a small piece of good news. A reminder that the ship was still, in part, a living, alien thing. Park Suman looked up from her console, her face pale. I'm picking up a new signal. Incoming vessel. Single ship. Small signature. It's broadcasting on all frequencies. A repeating message. Battle group? Taeyun asked, wiping his hands on his pants. No, too small. And the message? It's not a warning. It's a request. Suman played it. The voice was clear, speaking in careful, formal galactic standard. To the commanders of the vessel, known as Ghost Ship Alpha. This is the Galactic Concord diplomatic vessel Aegis of Discourse. We are approaching under a flag of truce, with weapons powered down and shields inactive. We request a dialogue. We repeat, we request a dialogue, not conflict. Please respond. Silence filled the bridge. They all looked at June. It's a trick, Condé said flatly. They hurt us. Now they send a pretty talker to finish us while we're weak. Maybe, Yuna said. But their shields are down. We could destroy that ship with what weapons we have left. They know that. It is a sign of something. June watched the blip on the screen, moving slowly towards them. A dialogue. The word felt foreign. Everything since finding the derelict had been about action. Salvage, build, fight. Talking was a different kind of battle. Suman, can you scan it? Deep scan. Is it hiding anything? Suman worked her panels. Single life form vessel. No weapons charging. No hidden energy signatures. It's clean. It's just a talker. June made a decision. Open a channel. Audio only. The link crackled. This is the Gumio, June said, using the name they had chosen for themselves. We hear you. Say what you need to say. The voice from the Aegis responded, calm and measured. Thank you for responding. I am Envoy Kale. I speak with the authority of Admiral Song Ji-woo of the Concord 7th Fleet. We have observed your actions. The attack on the provider was a crime. The engagement at Beta Pictoris was an act of war. The voice paused. And yet, the Admiral believes there is more to your story than piracy or madness. She believes you are engineers, not monsters. She offers a chance to speak, a chance to explain. Explain what? June said, his voice hard. That we needed medicine for dying people? Your Concord denied that request before we ever made it. You just didn't hear it until we shouted. That, said Envoy Kale, is the understanding we lack. We do not hear the whispers from the fringe. You have built a megaphone from a tomb. It is alarming, but it has made us listen. I am authorized to discuss terms. Terms of our surrender? June asked. Terms of a new relationship, the envoy corrected. Admiral Song proposes a meeting. A face-to-face discussion on neutral ground. No traps. Your ship may remain at a distance, under watch, but you will not be fired upon. You may bring a small guard. We will do the same. June muted the channel. He looked at his crew, his friends. Their faces were a mix of suspicion, fear, and a faint, desperate hope. What do you think? It could be a way out, Suman said quietly. A way to not be hunted forever. Or it's the easiest way to put us in a cell, Taeyeon countered. Yuna spoke softly. They called us engineers, not scavengers, not ghosts. They are trying to see us, not just the ship. She met June's eyes. We started this to be seen, to be heard. Now someone is asking to listen. Can we refuse? June unmuted the channel. Where and when? Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The neutral ground was a flat, rocky plateau on an airless moon. Two ships sat in the distance, the sleek, silver Aegis and the battered, patched Gumio, looking like a beast of legend beside a dove. Under a clear dome of a portable environment field, two groups faced each other. On one side stood Envoy Kale, a tall, avian seraph with calm eyes, and two Concord soldiers in polished armor, their hands away from their weapons. On the other stood Li Jun, Choi Yuna, and Kim Tae-yun, who had insisted on coming as guard, his own rifle slung but ready. "You built a weapon from a warning," Envoy Kale began. His voice translated through a small device. "Why? It was not a warning to us," June said. "It was raw materials. We saw a structure, a strong one. My people on the fringe have nothing that strong. We are ignored or exploited. When you have nothing, you learn to build with what you find, even if it is broken." "You built a club," Kale observed. "Because we needed a club," Tae-yan said bluntly. "No one listens to a polite request out here." Yuna stepped forward. "The ship, it is not just a weapon. It is a home now. We did not just take. We adapted. We live within it. Your scans probably show that. Its old heart sleeps. Our heart beats inside it. That is what we do. We adapt." Envoy Kale listened. He asked questions about the fever on the fringe colonies, about the failure of the Concord's frontier aid protocols, about how they had grafted the plasma drives, how Suman's translation matrix worked. He was not judging. He was learning. Finally, he said, "Admiral Song's proposal is this. The Dumaho will stand down as an active threat. It will not attack Concord vessels. In return, the Concord will grant recognized status to the Human Fringe Collective with a designated representative. Medical and technical aid will be routed through proper channels. Your unique skills in salvage and adaptive engineering will be consulted on certain frontier projects." He paused. "And the Gumaho itself will not be dismantled. It will be recognized as a sovereign vessel of the human fringe, a symbol of what you can do." The offer hung in the artificial air. It was everything they had wanted and nothing they had expected. It was not victory. It was not defeat. It was a seat at a table. June looked back at his ship, looming under the stars. He saw the welds, the patch, the ugly, powerful engines. He saw the home they had made inside a broken thing. They had not fixed the galaxy. They had not conquered it. They had forced it to make a new space, just for them. He turned back to Envoy Kale. "We will need to speak with our people. All of them." "Of course." Kale bowed his head slightly. "The offer stands. You have shown you are a threat. Now you have the chance to show you can be something else. Perhaps even an asset." The meeting ended. Walking back to the Gumeo, Taeyeon shook his head. "I don't trust it." "I don't either," June said. "But it's a new kind of fight. One we might be able to win." As the airlock of the Gumeo sealed behind them, Yuna placed a hand on the warm, glowing wall of the corridor. The ship felt different. It was no longer just a secret or a weapon. It was a fact, a statement that existed in the galaxy's ledger. The aliens had deserted a broken starship. Humans had transformed it into a threat. And now that threat had transformed them into players in a game they had never been allowed to play before. The story of the Gumeo was not ending. It was simply changing course.